Hello, Juma Erassy. Welcome to Troublemakers.
Thank you, Phil. I'm glad. It's good to be here.
It's super to have you. Thank you, brother.
Sure.
You have been organizing with a youth hub,
Yes.
actually at the place, for our listeners, at the place where we usually record the Troublemakers podcast in Samora Michel's studio. It's Juma's team at the youth hub of an institution called MSTCDC. I know even the acronym is a mouthful. They give us a little studio space. And we try to collaborate sometimes on events. And we haven't had a chance yet to sit down with Juma, who helps lead, might not be the right word given the topic that we have today, but he helps to organize a team that works with many youth organizations across this region of the world, which is in Arusha, Tanzania. So Juma, we're really blessed and favored to have you present with us today. And today we're going to be talking about enable, don't command. And this is a principle of how we organize with other people. And in my view, you are one of the people that best embodies and exemplifies this. I've never seen you impose your will or, use that kind of top-down way of managing or working with other people. It's just not your style. It's not your personality, but probably there's also a good reason why you try to enable others. I remember a time that you invited me to speak with a group that was coming around to campus. And I've seen you do that to a number of people where you felt they could come in and make a contribution. So I think you're really like one of the best people we could have had on the show to discuss this topic with.
Yes, thank you, Phil.
Why do you do it this way? Why not just tell people what to do?
Yeah, that's the best way to set the pace for quite an open discussion. So I basically grew up in a family of 5 men and 1 woman. So it's all like all of us at home are boys, 4 boys. So I've learned that from my mom, because then she was the only one, and then given the I would say Tanzanian or African context by then, it is expected that a mother could or rather should be able to do chores and then help the kids in terms of preparing them for school, cooking food, and then mentoring them and tutoring them for them to be organized. But my mother didn't do that because she understood that we didn't have a girl in terms of a sister. So she did let us do most of stuff ourselves in terms of having that ability to be creative enough and know that now it's time to eat, but then there's no food. She would be there. She would buy stuffs to cook, but she wouldn't tell you to cook, or she wouldn't teach us how to cook, but she would let us take initiative. When one is hungry, then you understand that you need food, so cook for yourself. She wouldn't be there to take leadership of that. If the house is dirty, you ought to understand that you have to clean the house, because she would clean her room and the rest of the house, but she wouldn't come to your room and tell you clean this or maybe wash clothes and do what. But she did give us space to grow in terms of be open-minded enough to see problems and then be able to solve them without her pushing us to do it, because then and she usually had a statement that if I tell you to do something, then you will do it because I told you to do it, not because you have taken initiative to solve a certain problem. So that's where I should say I took it from. Yeah.
Okay. And with gender, there's kind of a specific thing that happens when you have a group of like only boys or only men.
Yes.
Often when there are women or girls around, they feel more entitled through their socialization to kind of tell the women or girls what to do. But when there are only boys, only men, and something must get done, it kind of puts them in this kind of position where they need to ask some questions from each other, cooperate with each other. Did you experience that with your brothers?
Sure. Yes. So we have, I would say, a slight difference in age with my brother, because my elder brother is like 3 years ahead of me, and then my younger brother is of like 2-3 years or so behind me. So there is usually that I would say manhood in terms of teamwork, like how we address things and how we help each other out. Because then mostly my elder brother was the one who had the ability to cook better than me. So when it comes to division of tasks and understanding who should do what at a certain point in time, I would ask him to cook as I wash the dishes and then maybe prepare something else. So we had that ability to strike a balance between roles and responsibilities, and then helping each other's out. Helping each other out to ensure that we don't mess stuff as well. Yeah. Yes.
Tell us a bit about how this principle applies to your work with the Youth Hub.
Yes. So I would say in the past 8 or 9 years, I have been into the youth leadership space, and young people have different needs, and then it's I would say the status quo in terms of leadership structures and existing nomenclature in young people's engagement tend to believe that young people rather apply things or attend into meetings or events, or rather engage into existing leadership trainings or workshops at a point of ignorance, which is not the case, because they have certain understanding and knowledge, and they can identify what they need. Now the problem is, if they are not given that chance or opportunity to engage at their level, then we lose that engagement track. So if there is no, I would say, if there's no delegation of powers, if they come for a training or they attend a workshop or a meeting somewhere, and then they can sit back and watch, but then after there they will have groups discussing best solutions that they couldn't deliver, or rather they couldn't speak up in a specific session or event or a workshop, because they did not feel like they were engaged at that space. So there is also a saying that absolute power collapses. So with me, I've learned over time that young people have different needs and priorities, and then for them to be engaged, they need to be given that space to sort of, even if they don't have the ability to critically engage or analyze a specific topic or something, then they should be able to engage at their level, at a level that they can be comfortable to talk and speak and take leadership in terms of initiatives. Now, I can also add in a Tanzanian context. So there is a tendency when a child is growing up, and they have an issue, a parent could go and ask them to whisper on their ear, like ask a boy or a girl child to say it slowly on the parent's ear. That's something that denies that child's ability to speak up for themselves. So the same trend goes up to schools. When a teacher asks a question in class, a kid can't raise a hand until they're appointed maybe to speak, or they would rather stay with the question or a comment and not say a word. And that goes up to secondary school and even universities. I also lecture law at Tumaini University, and I see that because someone would literally not be able to ask a question in class, but will be able to follow you after class and ask, like, I had a certain question, and I was like, why didn't you ask in class?
Yeah.
Because they want, I would say, mentored to speak up for themselves until they are given that opportunity. And in the past years, I've said, in my engagement with young people, I've always taken that approach, not, I would say, to keep power to either myself or one person, but allow these young persons to sort of engage and speak out their minds. And then if they are not up to the task, then it's best to engage at their level and allow them to grow slowly than imposing certain, I would say, solutions or activities and telling them what to do in terms of 100% than allowing them to engage at their own pace, which makes more sense, because then they are the ones that are impacted and actually need to grow in terms of professional and career progress. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us a bit of a picture of the activities of the Youth Hub? What does your team look like, and what are the kinds of things that you do?
So we have transitioned over time. When the Youth Hub started in 2021, we believed one person can take care of everything. But after engagements increased in 2022, the team had 4 persons. Now that was because we have different thematic areas in youth engagement in political and democratic processes. Then we have climate justice, gender equality, feminism, and sexual and reproductive health rights. So there was a need to sort of engage more young people into different disciplines, which for one person to maintain that and be able to absolutely engage in all aspects would be next to impossible. So we have grown since 2022, and then we also established the external and outreach coordination section, whereby we understand that it could be complicated for every young person to come to TCDC to access the Youth Hub space. But then we thought we could also have external activities where we go outside and meet young people in their localities in terms of expansion of our activities and how we engage with them. So that has enabled us to not just reach out to many more young people, but transform the lives of young people in the Arusha region in terms of knowledge and understanding of different ideas and aspects that they want far knowledgeable before we started engaging with them. So for instance, I'd say university students, most of them thought that being at university is just limited to them going to class and coming out and waiting for coursework and university exams, graduate and go out and find jobs. But then we brought that aspect of career progress into different areas. Like, you can be studying law but be an expert in climate justice, so you extend your opportunity to engage in different areas that you that give you more space to like open and have more access to opportunities. So it's really been a tough but good journey for us.
And now, who are the members on your team?
So now it's only 2 of us. It's me and Venus. So Venus is an intern assisting with engagement and communication. Why that was so? Because the strategic partnership agreement was set to be ending in 2025. So we didn't need a larger team, but now that it's extended, we'll see how we can increase the capacity as well.
But you're one of the only kind of like departments on our campus here that a beautiful campus, by the way, for listeners who have not been here. You're one of the only kind of like departments as the Youth Hub that's doing like that deliberate outreach to the community. You know, like that's central to your work.
Yes.
And I can imagine that this would look a lot different if your approach to things mimicked that kind of like workplace culture or political culture or economic culture of authoritarianism. You know, if you're just going around, I'm Juma, I am the Youth Hub, you know, then people wouldn't really be that interested to join. However, I know it sounds kind of like silly to put it that way, but there are many organizations where like the ED, the boss, is the organization, right? Or people kind of like know the name of like the head person, and it's more or less interchangeable with the name of the organization. Um, but you're actually like calling many people in, and where there's like a new theme or a new working group or a new task, you have all these member-based youth groups that are, ready to do something about it. Um, and I wonder, sometimes people are looking for more of the boss.
Yes.
They want clear instruction from the top, and they are kind of happy to be somewhere in the middle.
Sure.
Have you encountered this kind of challenge where people really want you to clearly dictate and tell them what to do? And if you haven't encountered that, if you have encountered that kind of challenge, what did you do about it?
Yeah. So I'd say it has been two-way traffic. In terms of the different needs of a specific activity or event or program that the Youth Hub is hosting or doing outside TCDC, as the case may be. Now, a few times you would reach out to young people and then ask them on their understanding of a specific topic, and then they would it would usually appear as new to them. So there you would need to sort of integrate new knowledge and new ideas from different people. That has over time pushed, I would say, us at the Youth Hub to sort of look out for youth-led, or rather youth-centered and youth-serving organizations that engage, or rather that have engaged with young people for quite a time, for them to be able to share experiences and build that, I would say, sustainable engagement with the young people. So to formalize it and not make it appear as Juma is engaging with them, we sign MOUs in terms of specific areas of expertise, where if we have an activity in climate justice, then we understand who should we be reaching out to for them to come and help us in engaging with this. And then for that other organization to understand that they are dealing with the Youth Hub and not me, we've formalized that engagement. Now on the other side of the coin, engaging young people, I would say, in an authoritarian manner would end up in them not taking, I would say, ownership of a specific program or outcome that you seek to achieve. So the Youth Hub has adapted to global platforms learning methodologies, where we have 30% dedicated for pre-engagements with young people, and then 40% dedicated for us engaging with them in terms of the training and mobilizing and instilling those, I would say, ideas and knowledge into them. And then the rest of the 30% again, allowing them to go outside and implement what we have been engaging in. Now, at some points, I would be pushed to say that I am forcing young people to do a certain activity or engagement, but not in terms of imposing what they should do or what they shouldn't do, but rather because that's the methodology that would literally work well for them to engage properly. Then I wouldn't call it authoritarian, but more of a push from behind for them to be able to deliver to the expectations. So now that offers them that larger ownership, and then there is also sustainability in terms of carryover of the expected outcomes of a specific program. There have never been incidents under which I was maybe forced to push them to do something, or I would say directly impose, I would say, new aspects or in terms of external force or extra force for them to do something, but usually they take that initiative when you let them take leadership in these activities. So if I am supposed to facilitate a session, and then it's better to sort of engage them, one as a moderator, one as a lead, I would say, in terms of facilitation. So a division of tasks would allow them to be more open and making it a safe space for them to see that friendly, engaging environment, and then they get used to that as well. So we also maintain I would say a network of members that understand our culture and engagement. So even when the new ones come in, they would still adapt to the existing methodologies and culture that makes us coexist in an ecosystem that offers that openness to everyone. Yeah.
You described, Juma, how many youth are brought up to be a bit passive and not over-assert themselves. Have you encountered any situation where you feel like you're really trying to enable someone, give them all the resources they need, the platform, the go-ahead, give them everything you can, but still they're kind of hesitant?
Yeah, it happens a lot, and given the manner under which the USAB functions, and then I would say standard operating procedures, we at some points may not be able to offer young people all that they may need. So for instance, I mentioned earlier that we have thematic areas, and those are the ones that we look to engage in terms of specific programs and engagements and activities. But then a young person who has graduated from school is looking for a job. So as much as you would have a program as sustainable as it could be to train them on climate justice or feminism, it wouldn't still make sense to them, because they'd be like, I need a job, I need a monthly salary, I want money, which will help me maintain a life after the training. That we cannot offer. So at some points, even when they come to trainings and then you offer them such resources, you spend time, maybe a week or more, engaging them on a specific area. If they do not have that, I would say, external opportunity or engagement that they see as feasible in terms of income thereafter, it's going to be challenging for them to engage. So unless a person has, I would say, direct interest in the thematic area, the program, then it will be easy to engage with that person. Now, how we solve that challenge is we usually send out applications in terms of, now we need a specific, I would say, target group, maybe on climate justice, and then we set questions that will help us identify this person as really the person that we want to come in for a specific activity, and then the resources and the time and whatever that we put in, the energy and the efforts that we put in a specific program actually has the best people that we could accommodate to also avoid wasting resources. But then also, as I mentioned earlier, understanding that young people have different needs, and in the current world, most of them need, I would say, money, jobs, and resources and opportunities. It would be a complicated question to answer in terms of being able to provide 100% resources or meet the needs of every young person we engage with here.
Yeah.
Or rather expecting them to fit in our programs, which is not their priority at a certain time. Yes.
And, as you put it, in today's world, money is one of these things that we need to survive. And young people have less and less of it these days compared to the cost of living. So it makes sense that some people might show up in various places with the motivation of, can I find a job? Can I find a steady income? Can I find a financial kickback of some kind? But what are the other motivating factors you've seen in youth in Arusha region here? There must be other reasons that people are getting involved and showing up.
Yeah. So I'd say the needs of let me call them young professionals in the Arusha region. Arusha in itself is a tourist city. Now, for young people in the city to be able to survive, they I would say they see what's happening or going on in the city with even larger, I would say, international engagements in the Arusha region that sets the standard of living a bit higher, and then it also sets the expectations of young people at a certain level where they expect to maybe have money, have a good job, own certain materials and stuffs, engage with people at a certain level. So what they need, I would say, more is a skill set to be able to survive, and that comes with now more access to opportunities that cannot be, I would say, delivered by either the government or the youth hub alone, which would now need an engagement of more stakeholders in both the private and the public sector, and then also an open minded setting in the young people themselves, that for them to be able to achieve their expectations, then they would need to, I would say, up their standards and meet their demands. That now is also a gap that the youth hub clears, because then we are able to, I would say, try and mobilize resources to be able to reach out to more young people, and then expand the knowledge of these young people at the, I would say, the lowest level, from secondary schools to higher education at universities, where we engage them and provide, I would say, life skills training, engagement in responsive democratic processes, and then connect them to different, I would say, networking opportunities like the ULEAD Summit, which is not ours, but then we would bring them for them to be able to integrate with young people in other countries and regions all over the continent, for them to be able to understand and learn in terms of that exchange learning approach, for them to be able to acquire, I would say, new experience in problem solving, and reach out to different stakeholders depending on what they are engaging in, for them to be able to, I would say, meet whatever they need. Yeah.
It's good to hear it reiterated that there are youth out there in the world who want to learn. I think often young people are getting a bad reputation for spending time on TikTok and all this kind of thing, but people are really out there trying to learn, to grow, to get more knowledge and skills and apply them and find other people who are doing the same. I just have one more question before we go into our last segment, Juma. What piece of advice would you give to somebody who has found themselves in a position where they, for lack of a better word, maybe oversee a lot of people? Maybe they're in an organization with a lot of members. Maybe they're in a workplace where they've gotten a promotion and there are different teams. How could people who haven't been in that position before begin to practice this principle of enable instead of commanding?
Yeah. Thank you, Phil. I will respond to that in I would say, with nexus to a historical context or background. The needs of the labor market and leadership in the 21st century is completely different to the needs that were available in the past centuries. Now, for instance, during the Industrial Revolution, in, I would say, in the 1980s, the needs of workers in an industry was for them to be able to acquire a specific amount of money from the employer, for them to go back home and, I would say, pay bills, and then be able to survive with the family. Now that has extended, I would say, to the from the year 2000 and on, where people did not just need, I would say, people did not work to pay bills alone, because the needs kept extending, and then there is that approach of people wanting to work, deliver, but also get money to invest for them to also become richer, and then be able to cater for their families, and then also the aspect of technological advancements that came with it. So the first one I said was the person working to acquire money to pay bills with. During those times, the bourgeoisie could impose or do anything for the employers, and they would be able to tolerate that as much as there were movements like the nudism and Ludism back in the years, but then most of the workers could tolerate that for them to get money. And then in the years of 2000, it was now acquiring money not just to pay bills, but acquiring money to also be able to invest and expand, and also the aspect of, I would say, technological advancements. From, I would say, 2010 to date, workers have different needs, because then a person can't come to work. They can't go to work to be able to pay bills, but then when their mental stability is not okay, they will tell you, I am stressed, I can't work, even though you pay them. When someone gets sick, they won't come to work, as opposed to the years back during the Industrial Revolution and so forth. Someone would still be sick, but they would still go to work. Now, given the challenge that the needs of the current professional development and career growth is different, I have a feeling that leadership systems or structures should be able to adapt to the needs of the current generation. I'm not speaking for the Gen Zs, but just understanding that if you force an employee to do a specific task, forcing them beyond their nerves, while they were able to deliver that similar output without being pushed to that extent, we are losing on creativity. Why? Because people need to be, I would say, have a work area or engagement that there is freedom of the mind and safe space for them to be able to work to deliver to the best of their abilities. There are available policies in different workplaces, I understand, but the policies alone do not meet the needs of the people, like in terms of maybe the open door policy, like you can ask a question or tell your boss anything, but people still fear in terms of job security, because then they would be fired and so forth.
The things that you can't really write down on paper as part of the policy, but you feel the weight of them in your relationships at work, for example.
Sure. It would really be easy for someone to tell you, I am okay, but then they are not delivering in terms of their job descriptions. Why? Because they have that, I would say, fear in their minds, just because the boss is saying something, or I would say there is some kind of miscommunication or misunderstanding. People can be disturbed by family engagements. So you find it, like a person coming home while they have an issue with their family members, and then get to work, there's also an issue with the boss, and then there's no delivery. You would hire 20 people for the same position, but if that situation maintains, then you will still need to hire another, because the past 20 weren't able to deliver due to the environment that they were exposed to, not being able to be allowed to be creative enough and survive, not under imposed, I would say, standard operating procedures, but creativity and permission to be open enough to work freely. Yeah.
It's so sad. I feel like as we're coming of age, children becoming adults, the so-called youth of the world, that 18 to 35, they say officially, but I think it starts a little bit earlier, that early kind of consciousness as it comes to us. I feel like we're also holding this burden of trying to figure out how the world works and conform to that so that we can survive. And it's really quite sad, because in doing that, we have to erase a lot of that creativity. We feel that tug of war, that pull toward what is the employer gonna want to see, and often the employer is less. They want to see some skills, right, or some credentials in some cases, but often they're looking for the conformity. Is this somebody that I can control and extract labor from in order to get what I want,
Yeah.
And I think that's a really, really difficult thing to navigate. It's full of contradictions.
Yeah, sure. I agree with you. And then I think in that very same line, trying to pull it on, I would say, East African political processes. I have a feeling that most, I would say, countries in the EAC have that adaptation to neoliberal democratic approaches, where people may not be able to point out that a certain leader at the top is mistreating certain individuals or violating human rights, just because they are able to push for socioeconomic development and ensure that maybe infrastructures are properly organized and maybe a couple of social services are being provided to a better extent. So people have that fear for their leaders, because a certain leader chooses, I would say, ministers or MPs in terms of official seats that he feels he can task to do something, and then they won't be able to say no against them. So it really doesn't just start from, I would say, the family level to organizations, but also goes to even intergovernmental organizations, where when a person is appointed to a specific position, he would usually go out and find a couple of his followers who would sit into, I would say, central positions that he would be able to order them, and they would deliver to what he needs, just because they are, I would say, inferior to him also. So that's something that we would really need to transition.
Yeah, that's grounds for a whole other episode of this podcast. We can't get into it right now.
Yeah.
But thanks for mentioning it. Before we get off the air, I'd like to divine the future with this Beautiful Trouble card game. Juma, our next door neighbor in the office over here, please ask this beautiful trouble card deck a question about the future for Arusha's youth. And then we'll have you pick a card, and that will be our response to that question.
Say that again.
So give us a question about the future of Arusha's youth. What would you like to know about the future of the youth that you've been working with?
What is there in stock for advancement of responsive democratic processes in Tanzania for young people?
Great. Just select any card.
Let me take one.
Yeah. And go ahead and read the card that you selected.
So this is Guerrilla Theater. It says surprise theatrics designed to confront power holders in contested political spaces or playful intervene in public settings in order to disrupt norms and spread new political ideas. Yeah, this response.
What do you say about that in response to your question for Arusha's youth?
In terms of spreading new political ideas, I feel like as much as the civic space is shrinking in Tanzania, availing that opportunity for young people to disrupt, I would say, the status quo in a manner that does not put them under specific threats, would enable them to be able to, I would say, identify solutions and improve Tanzanians, I would say, democratic approaches. Why? Because Tanzania has been under, I would say, Chama cha Mapinduzi, CCM, ever since we got independence.
That's the ruling party.
Yes. Yeah, that's the ruling party.
Which has gone from left to right.
Sure. Where there's also, I would say, a limit to multi-party engagements. Even since we acquired it in 1992 in our constitution. So there is still, as I'm not saying we should take out the ruling political party in position, but I'm saying young people should be able to understand more democratic processes, and this is the best way to go. Questioning the common agenda, raising critical questions under which that even though they might remain into power, but they would really need to be able to identify the needs of the young people apart from just their engagement in politics and building infrastructure and so forth, but being able to I would say raise critical mindsets in the young people to, I would say, transition power and I would say deploy practical approaches that would help us advance.
Thank you so much, Juma. Thanks for sharing your heart and mind and practice with us today.
Thank you, Phil. I'm grateful. It was really good.
All the best.
Hi! We hope you enjoyed the conversation on this episode of Troublemakers and feel inspired to stir up some good trouble in your own community. Do feel free to check out our other episodes and subscribe to Troublemakers Podcast in your preferred podcast app. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook as troublemakers.podcast for all the latest updates, behind-the-scenes content, and sneak peeks of what's coming next. We also love to hear from our listeners. You can email us via troublemakersthepodcast@gmail.com or simply drop a DM through our social media. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, take a moment and share it with a friend or leave us a review. It really helps us grow our community of troublemakers. Keep shaking things up.